We're so glad to have you here today. My name is María-Elisa Heg, and I'm the curatorial fellow here at the Craft Center. And I'm joined today by Stefan and Mary, who go by the collective name Hillerbrand Magsamen in their studio. So really excited to be here today. So I'm just going to do a little bit of information about our wonderful resident artists today. But before I go into any of that, I just want to be upfront with y'all. We've had an interesting time being visited by the tech gremlins. So if you're having any trouble hearing us, or if there are any hiccups in the video quality or connectivity, do let us know, but also know that we're on a little bit of a lag. So if you notice something and it hasn't cleared up after a few seconds, just give us a little bit of time. But we're going to do the best we can, and we really appreciate you guys letting us know what's going on and just being here with us today. So thank you so much. All right, so thanks to Catherine and Blaze, who are our wonderful stream runners who are going to help moderate the chat. We will have an audience Q&A session at the end of our chat. So if y'all are watching, chime in the comments, pop off in the chat with your questions. We'll be asking them at the end of the session. So yeah, just be thinking about those. So without further ado, let's get started. So Hillerbrand Magsamen are our inaugural interdisciplinary craft and photography artist residents, part of a new program offered jointly by HCCC and the Houston Center for Photography. We're super excited about this collaboration and what you've already brought to HCCC with that hybrid practice. So it's been very cool to watch y'all work while you've been here. So a little bit about the artists, Stefan Hillerbrand and Mary Magsamen. Their practice utilizes collaboration, process, and media experimentation through video photography, installation, sculpture, and interdisciplinary performance. They explore their relationships with each other and society with an uncanny sensibility that merges the real and the unreal, blurring boundaries between life and art, and often includes their two children, Maddie and Emmett. They presented their videos at international film festivals and media festivals, including the Houston Cinema Arts Festival, the Ann Arbor Film Festival, and their cinematic-based installations have been exhibited at the Everson Museum in Syracuse, New York, the Center for Photography Woodstock in Woodstock, New York, the Fusion Photography Festival in Wales, and at Houston Center for Photography here in town. Stefan is currently an associate professor at U of H, and Mary is a curator at the Aurora Picture Show. Thanks so much for having us today. Yeah, it's really a pleasure. We were connecting on some tech sensibilities and familiarity we've had with sort of a hybrid approach to making art. So it's a really on a personal note, a pleasure for me to kind of be able to interact with you guys about the work that you do and how you're approaching it. So that's really exciting. So, to give our wonderful audience a little bit of an introduction to yourselves and your practice to kick things off, can you tell us how each of you came to your practice, and then how your collaboration formed? Did it form along with your relationship, or was it earlier or a later development? How did it all come together?
Well, we met in graduate school.
There's two versions of the story. Go ahead.
I like that.
So we met in graduate school at Cranbrook Academy of Art in Michigan, and we were in the same program and just friends. But Stefan was doing a lot with photography and sculpture. I was doing a lot with video and sculpture, and both doing a lot of kind of personally based work. So we were doing some similar stuff. But we were just friends in grad school, and then I moved to New York, and he moved to Atlanta. And then we began a long-distance relationship. And then he moved up to New York, and we started sharing a studio. And in doing that, we realized, we should try collaborating. So that's how it all started.
I think we applied for a residency. And the residency, right, Lower Manhattan Cultural Council.
Well, we had done some work.
We had done some work. We had done some work together. Mm-hmm. And then when we applied, we said, why don't we both go and do it at the same time? And I think that's when it really started saying, wait, let's call ourselves by our last names. Let's think of ourselves as a team. Yeah. But the great story, my story of the version, is that on the first day or the second day of graduate school, it was Cranbrook Academy of Art, and they had this wonderful kind of speakeasy bar in the basement of one of the buildings, and we all went and got something to drink, and I was standing at the bar, and I heard somebody
argument was between formalism and conceptual work.
And I was sitting, and it was one of those great kind of, it felt like I was like, who is this talking about this? And I kind of nudged, and it turned out to be Mary, and got in this big philosophical, young graduate school kind of debate.
Whipping out our Walter Benjamin.
Love it.
Yes, and quoting French philosophers and talking about everything from, craft and photography and baking and such, and that kept going on now for, 78 years? No, for ever since we did that.
Yeah, so yes, we started collaborating before we were even married, way before kids, and now, yeah, that's all we do.
Aww.
And I don't know, we always joke about maybe branching out and doing a solo album or something, but we never do. It's always kind of, right from the beginning, our sensibility, I think, was the same. Using ourselves as a springboard or a way to kind of understand our practice. And so when the two of us got together to do that, that made perfect sense when we were in the relationship together. Then with our children, then our home here in Houston. We've been here in Houston for 14 years, and the way we always talk about that is that when we moved, we were coming sort of in a roundabout way from New York, where we're like, oh, we have this, what we think of the studio, what we think of the New York artist, and we're like, well, what do we do now? How do we make our work in this place? And that's when we started kind of thinking of our home as a studio, and specifically for our interest in the art movement Fluxus, Art Provera, thinking about how all of our actions, all of our everyday actions are art and special and can be magnified.
Beautiful. So let me check in real quick with our AV.
I think we're going to want to try to move the mic a little bit closer.
Oh.
So we're going to try, thanks for bearing with us, y'all. We're going to try to move our mic a little bit closer. Actually, Stefan's lab, which I believe is out there, we could try to plug that in on a real old-fashioned interview style microphone situation. Again, thank y'all so much for being so patient with us as we manage more and more tech loveliness. So we're going to try having the lab now with our transmitter. So y'all, thanks again. Let us know how everything sounds. Here we go. We're going to move it and do a little live test and see how that sounds.
Hello, everybody. Stefan here.
Any better?
Hello.
Mary. How's it sound? Are we picking? Oh, we're getting from
So
our producer.
We're having a very interesting time.
We can hear it's very, very low, and I have everything all the way up.
Yeah, I think that we're having a gremlin situation. So as we move to adapt to this, this might be the guy. So let me tell y'all a joke. Yeah, what award did our local farmer win?
Come closer.
So how is that sounding,
That
gang?
sounds closer.
Still wacky? It's still. Can you hear good, Mike?
It's low.
We're really close to the webcam. So what's happening here, this is actually very apropos because we're all involved with trying to do virtual live streaming performance work. So actually I couldn't ask for a more sympathetic group to be having this time with, but we had a cool setup with a remote mic. It is for some reason just deciding not to work as well anymore. So I've tried to hook it up with a lav mic, but it seems like we're having, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna step away from the webcam mic. Make sure that it's hooking up to this mic and not the webcam. Is it sounding fainter?
A little bit. It's looking fainter on the
Am I? Yeah.
It's the webcam.
Well,
pretty low.
Yeah, but you got to
We
turn
can
all
just
this.
be close.
we can just be close.
Yeah.
It's just a fun.
Come
turn it up.
It'll be a fun,
The
cozy
volume
session.
is all the way up.
Yep.
We can hear you, María-Elisa. It's harder to hear Stefan and
We were
Mary.
farther away.
We were farther away,
So maybe
so-
if we're closer.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
should be, what really should be happening is
I'm just so
that
tall.
we should be able to connect from
Okay.
the
We
remote.
can hear y'all with the volume all the way up if you're in this proximity.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
So
perfect.
just
Well,
come
we'll
close.
stay here then. Okay, great. Cool. All right. Well,
Does
let's.
this have a longer cable? Like, can we?
Yeah.
Or-
We don't have a
No.
USB to USB extension. Another probably product of our insistently obsolescent reality. But
That's fine.
let's all get cozy. Okay, great. This is perfect. I love this. We're looking great. So, I love to hear that y'all really kind of, came together relationship-wise and artistically. It seems like it kind of happened concurrently, and it's as your lives together has grown, so has your practice. And I think that's really interesting. And, it's been amazing to watch how many evolutions just your explorations at the Craft Center have gone through in the short amount of time you've been here. And one thing I think it would be really wonderful, and we're really grateful that y'all have agreed to do this, is to see a demonstration of kind of one part of the process of how you work. Now, I know given that our current interesting tech times, we may have to be a little bit scrappy in how we do it, but let me know how I can help you as you walk us all through this demo and your process, and yeah.
So what we've typically done and what we've been doing for several years now is kind of following a kind of Duchampian ready-made way of working and experimenting in the studio, and we think of it as like being alchemists and trying to put two things together to make gold. And so we like to we have bins and bins and bins of stuff. We've been using toys and found objects and things from our home, and we put the two things, or sometimes 3 or 4 or 5 things together and make an object. And so it might be like,
Wait, can I interrupt you? Because
why wouldn't you?
it's because you said studio and
So, well, while you talk, I'll show. This is just a ball, and then, Nerf darts. Our house is full of these. So, go ahead.
Well, because our house, we work inside of our living room, inside of our kitchen, inside of the kids' rooms. We don't really have a studio. We use everything in there. So when we do make work, we're taking the camera, pointing it at ourselves and what we do inside of it, or making devices or sculptures or the objects and things out of the stuff that we find. We always kind of think sort of like we're on a lifeboat, in that we can only use what's inside of this lifeboat. So when you said studio, one of the I think the things that's been so important about this residency and coming here to the center is that it was a chance where we could, it sounds strange maybe for artists who do have studios, but this chance to actually get in the car, leave our space, think about what we're doing, and kind of put things up on nice, clean, white walls, and be able to sit back and have a coffee and think about it has been very special and one of the most important things. You mentioned we've gone through maybe 4 or 3 different kind of bodies of work iterations, and that's been really special as well, because we've gone through them so quickly that now when we leave the residency in 2 weeks, I think what we're going to do is bring it back home and look at it and digest it and think about all these quick things that we've done, and then be able to kind of keep working on them a little bit slower.
Yeah,
So-
and we came in with, some specific ideas, and then those changed and evolved, and we threw those out, and then started working on some other things. But so this would be like an example of putting 2 things together that don't belong together. Then we would photograph this object.
You call it to my point.
And so if you see in the studio, we have our camera set up. Here's another example of an object that we've made. So then we photograph it, and then we then we put it into the computer and then kind of work with it through Photoshop. So Steph, why don't you show them?
Oh.
So there's our computer, and so we would take the image, and we've been putting circles around everything. It's a way to unify the images together. It's also a really great kind of metaphor for looking at through a microscope or looking through a telescope, or just the kind of metaphors that are associated with working with circles. So then we print them out.
What side's up?
Is that a part of the process, deciding which side is up?
Yeah. Well, now it's upside down. But anyways.
Maybe not.
So yes, and we've been printing these at the Houston Center for Photography in their printing lab, which has been great. And then after we print them, then we have been going in and playing with them. So manipulating them with paint, with charcoal, with sewing. So this is yarn, and there's yarn here, and then and we've spray painted on some. So kind of getting away from that preciousness of the photograph and making it more into an object, taking it through yet another transformation. So this was one transformation, printing it's another transformation, and then this is yet another one. So this is all thread that's been sewn into it.
And what's amazing, let's go backwards. Explain the baking for me.
It's the one that we just didn't show this video.
Oh, sure. This is the, you go back and get that. I'm not sure if you're able to tell, but it's so much about this alchemy and this process of not knowing what's going to happen. This is a photograph of the orange netting that Home Depot uses to buying Christmas trees. And we stuck it on the wall just by chance, and we thought it was so beautiful. We photographed it, but then we really wanted to go in there and kind of let it come out of the photograph. So we have some little French knots, right? And then the strings, and I'll switch places.
Yeah. So this is that the ball that I was showing you. Then we painted it and kind of let the paint do its own thing.
Did you manipulate the paper as you were applying the paint? Did you let it kind of flow freely? Okay, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So I had a question, actually, something really interesting that you mentioned. I think, Stefan, was the idea of the preciousness of the photographed image. And it kind of got me thinking, because I think, in general, overall in the history of photography, DSLRs and digital photography is relatively new, and I would even say that high quality digital reproductions of photography even newer. And so I guess wondering about how much sort of wet photography experience you were, how much wet photography you were engaging with, and if that process, just by virtue of its laboriousness, kind of prevented you from exploring playfulness and experimentation with the image because of that perceived preciousness.
Yeah.
We did, and that's a wonderful question, because again, this residency has allowed us to really kind of do things that we just normally wouldn't do. Mary has been, here, you show this to them. We've been doing cyanotypes and doing that same process of engaging in a process that we normally don't do, manipulating it, and that experimentation. We've also, here's one of our objects, it's on cloth. And, I think normally, maybe because of time or resources, we get an idea and we try to execute it as fast as possible, because otherwise we have to go to the grocery store and we have to pick up the kids and there's so much other things going on. And here we've been able to kind of, every idea that we've thought about, we've been able to explore, and we kept coming back to inkjet printing on paper because of its, this may sound funny, but the fabric was too forgiving, that when we would kind of stitch into it and manipulate it, it held up too well, and we loved the delicacy of that the paper could rip. That when Mary was painting on it with watercolors or with a spray paint, it starts to buckle. We wanted those accidents, happy accidents, to happen.
But I think to María-Elisa's question, which was about, would we be still doing this if we were in a dark room?
Yeah, like if we were printing silver gelatin photographs from a negative. I mean, I think it's an interesting question, but
Yeah, and I think that I don't think we would be doing because part of it is the immediacy.
We're good. We're all in frame. No worries.
I'm trying to stay close to the mic.
Well, we're all in the circle of sound.
I think that the immediacy that digital media allows, and being able to print these immediately and multiple times. So like we have several pieces that were like disasters, and we're like, well, we'll just reprint it.
Yeah.
And so I think having that freedom encourages this kind of experimentation and not being so precious with it, versus if we were like in a dark room with wet plates or whatever, it would be a different process. And this process is very immediate, it's very reactive, and so I think that and we're like that when we work with video too. It's a very immediate process, and so taking some spray paint and spraying on a photograph is super immediate, and that's something that we both really like.
Yeah.
I think it's a totally different approach.
For sure, yeah.
And one of the things that, I'm going to tell your story now, so sorry, but what you always say when people ask about collaboration is that we started collaborating digitally, right? We started working in video as our medium together. And if there wasn't that Control Z or undo on the keyboard, we don't think, I don't think we would have collaborated as much, because it's a really hard thing. Can you imagine a painter and somebody comes in and puts that paint there, and then somebody comes and says, no, I'd like to do a different thing. You can't reverse it. And well, that's happened. We've gotten
we're like, oh.
Yeah.
I don't like what you've done.
That. So I'm like, okay, we'll reprint.
So
I mean, the option to toggle between two, even in Photoshop, if you're mocking up something, the ability to toggle between two potential outcomes of a piece is pretty transformative. I mean, and one other thing that actually kind of occurred to me, just in terms of being able to produce a lot of images to experiment with, having less concern about the preciousness of the medium that's carrying the image, but also like how it's kind of deconstructing a sense of preciousness in art that's sort of, it's a tension point no matter where you are in practice, whether a commodification is the desired outcome or something to be struggled against. But it kind of made me think of how, now there is sort of an attempt to imbue preciousness into an inkjet print. Like the giclée term is very very precious, and it's sort of antithetical, I think, to what draws you, especially, to using specifically inkjet prints, specifically paper prints. And so, do you find that you encounter other people in your, field, being a pretty broad term because you're so multidisciplinary, but fellow photographers who might have feelings about giclée or preciousness, or, I think those processes in photography and how they interact with them, right?
I'll let you take
Oh.
it.
Stefan, please.
We did a project before coming here to the center in the residency called 147 Devices for Integrated Principles. And it was a beautiful project which involved collaborating with a playwright and a musician. It was performance with us and our children. It involved video, sculpture, photography, and it was a 3-4 year project. It was really beautiful. But at its core, the title, as the title indicates, we had to do 147 photographs, and that eventually started to lead to how many, 200, 300? A couple hundred, because as we started to make them, these objects and these photographs, people would ask for specific ones, and it grew. So we were exhausted. you know, what's precious about a series of 300 photographs? I think there's a reaction to that of going in this Instagram, TikTok, you know, social media where images are so much like popcorn, and I think we felt it within our practice by making this last project, making so many, that now we're, well, I feel personally, I was like, yeah, I want to make it, I want to slow it down. I want to, yeah, it's not about making it precious, but slowing down the image. And we can't slow down the inkjetting process, but we can slow down our mark making, our stitching, our kind of our thumbprint onto it. And I think that's why I want to do it. What do you think? Why do you?
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is like, I like making work that's interdisciplinary. I like experimenting. I like saying, okay, there's rules that can be broken.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we do have friends who are like, you know, photographers who do say, you know, photo with a capital P, you know, and which is fine.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm much more interested in the, you know, being playful in the studio and having fun and being like, okay, well, yeah, what happens if we put some spray paint on this, or what if we rip it in half, or
Yeah.
So it's, and that's more of that. Also, I think goes to our interest in performance too, and kind of doing these actions, you know, and actions that are something that kind of speak to us personally.
Yeah.
We had this residency has been so wonderful, and the new resident Stephanie next door. Last week she was teaching a class of students, I think in San Francisco, and she brought her laptop into our studio and was showing everybody there, and we explained.
That's so neat.
Yeah, it was like a little kind of mini studio visit up here in Houston for people up in San Francisco, and after we were done, and I said, does that make sense? It was exactly what Mary just said. And one of the students there on Zoom said, oh, so you guys are like alchemists. And it was like, oh my goodness, you know, you forget kind of what your process is about, this tinkering, this experimentation, this, I'm not satisfied with it, I would like to do it one more time, another version, another iteration. And you know, it occurred in, the reminder was so special because it occurred at a time where I think at least I forgot what that is. So yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't think we're very satisfied with that final product, right? We always want to just go in there and do a little bit more.
Yeah. Let me take a quick moment and do a little directorial. Could we pan the webcam just up a little bit so we can be a little higher up, get a little more of Mary's lovely face, and then pan slightly to the left? That feels good. Does everybody feel good? We feeling good? Great. Excuse me. I did have a lot of interest in this term that y'all use for yourself, and that I guess somebody correctly identified you as, which is this idea of like being alchemists, which is, you know, joining and creating a new thing. There's also this idea of like, you know, in the truly esoteric sense of the word, where you're kind of doing this grand work to sort of, I mean, alchemists are like trying to reunify the world, right? To take these disparate, separated parts and in their own art kind of recreate a whole. And I think there is that tension between the living and the making of your art that you're sort of trying to marry in that. So where your mark making is actually a physical trace of your physical body that's got this double layer of reproduced image that was taken of a sculpture. And I was going to ask this later on, but I think it's just coming up now. Like, you know, as you engage, and let me look, because I wrote it out better than I think I can remember what I wrote, which is why I write these ahead of time. Because I feel like you are merging these material explorations with the representation of them, as you mentioned, this back and forth dialogue. And I feel like, you know, that's asking inherent questions about what the handmade object represents in and of itself. What is the printed representation of it? And so I guess, you know, Can you walk us through that transmutation process? You know, do you always start with the sculpted object? Do you come from a photograph and then turn it into an object? And, you know, like how many transmutations does it go through, and kind of where does it seed when you start a body of work?
That's a good question. I would say, at least in devices and in this work, these two bodies that we've been doing here, it's coming from the sculpture first, from the objects, kind of marrying those objects together, and then going through that process together of how to transform them. But in other projects, that's not necessarily the case. So in other projects, it's been more of like an action inspires, we did this piece many, many years ago called Coffee and Milk, and it was Stefan was like, you know, stirring his coffee and was like obsessed with how the cream and the coffee go together, so that was like an action that informed the work. Or we did a piece called Do It Yourself Loveseat, and I was like staring at our family couch and going, what happened to the Loveseat? And so it's like, let's cut it up.
We were sitting having coffee. It was breakfast, and we used to joke that our best ideas happened at breakfast over coffee. And one morning, it was silence, and nothing was. It was very quiet. And you look over and you say, "Stefan, I have this great idea. I'm going to get a chainsaw and I'm going to cut up our couch." And I laughed and I said, "Well, that's the first piece of furniture we ever bought together. It was our relationship furniture. Why are you cutting it up? Do we need to see a therapist?" And you laughed and you said, "Oh, no, it's going to be a really great piece." I think the objects, I think there's been a spike. I've done something over the last couple of weeks. We've been updating our website, which is a weird thing, for artists and makers and creative people, because all of a sudden you see kind of this retrospective, this history, and you're like, oh my goodness, look at that, it's online. And we started off doing painterly work, like you said, coffee and milk, and tinkering and more alchemy. And then I think there's this ebb where we have the same sensibility, but it's a little more documentary. That's when the house comes into play. The children come into play.
It's also when we had kids.
That's when the
We
kids.
still have kids, but when they were little.
So the exploration kind of stopped. The tinkering was there. We were fascinated with the object. That's what started it. We cut holes in our wall, but then we left it alone. And I think we're coming back full circle to where now we're like, okay, 2, 3, 4 more versions would be fine. And I think probably anybody who's listening, I think they're makers out there. They're creative people who are that's their temperament. They're just like, I can get another stitch in there, or I can, one more glaze. That's just fine.
It's the maximalist impulse.
Yeah,
right?
you're just like, I can keep working.
Well, I actually think that's a really interesting sort of segue, because, I was comparing the series that you've done about, I think it was the Devices series, which was, a lot of embellishment and embroidery, and you were printing on fabric and paper, but in terms of the palette, it was very muted comparatively, so you'd have mostly grays and light kind of colors, and then your odd pop of color. And I mean, if we just, look over here, it's definitely what you want. Yeah, there you go. Duck your head or be the man of white. I mean, you can just tell it's just a radical difference from that body of work to this. And so, what first drew you to these materials that include, and if y'all, come in the next 2 weeks, if you haven't yet, you'll see all sorts of things, Nerf darts, toy balls, plates, all of these really vibrant and commercially produced stuff for play or for, limited use, I would say. So yeah, talk us through like kind of how you came to this, and also talk about how you came to these really strikingly unusual configurations of the material, because I think that's such an interesting part of this.
Well, I don't know, Steph might have some different response, but for me it was like, we've been working on the devices project for several years, and we had all these bins of stuff. So our studio had, they used to all be color coded. We had our full rainbow. Each bin had its own color, and so we had all this color stuff. But then we would paint it silver, or we would paint it white or black to make it monochromatic.
Yeah, like you were creating unified devices, so they had to have
They had to all be like unified in their color.
Right.
And so we were doing all that work for several years, and then also I think in conjunction with COVID and just like how depressing 2020 was, then we were like, when we started doing the residency here, like I said, we had a different idea coming into it, and then we were like, kept hitting a wall with the project, and then we were like, well, let's just have some fun and let's just make some stuff. And so we were like, okay, we have a ton of Nerf darts from our son. So and this was like one of those pipes that you blow into.
Oh, like, yeah.
You know, like for like some sport game or
like
something.
Like a mini Vuvuzela. Oh my gosh, she's gonna do it. Is the mic working?
So I think it was just like we were ready. We were so ready for like something joyful, something fun, something new, and like we just wanted to have fun while we were here and experiment with a new idea. And so yeah, I think it was a response to having done a project for so many years and then having COVID hit and it was so awful, and just wanting to like, yeah, just go crazy.
The thing is, you know, and we were just sitting, we didn't know what to do. Our first, you know, we come into the residency.
Yeah, this is like an Easter egg as a base, and those are Nerf bullets and zip ties. That's all it is. And a whole lot of hot glue.
And so we started hot gluing, and we, you know, somebody came, it was last Saturday, somebody was here at the center, and they were looking at the exhibitions, and they came in, they said, oh my goodness, I'm still finding Nerf.
Like I step on those bullets.
I find them in my couch from my son, and my son's in college, but we still find them. And it goes back to your earlier question. We have these bins, we have this stuff, we made it, but then the second question was, these can't last. These do not have.
Yeah, they don't have permanence.
They don't have permanence. They have a limited life. So what could we do? And that's when the photography and the stitching and the kind of a second, almost like a butterfly or, you know, a caterpillar having a second, a third, a fourth kind of life in there.
I think that's a really interesting way to think of it too, because, you know, there's this sort of like perception of like, you know, what is archival and what isn't when photography is concerned. And I think that you're prolonging these very ephemeral objects through that. And then the additional aspect of elaborating on that, you know, it's a really interesting way of prolonging life without, you know, having an overt concern for some of the more, you know, I don't know what to say, conventional, like, oh, well, it's not going to be this or that. It's more like, no, we just gave it a longer life. You know, this was already ephemeral to begin with. One thing I found very interesting, and I think y'all, of course, given the name of the series, which is Strain, I thought it was very, not ironic, but interesting that, you know, in that response that you gave to why you came to this and how joyful and playful you wanted to be, that a lot of them kind of ended up looking like viruses and bacteria, you know?
Yeah.
And I think, you know, do you think that's a product of maybe your own subconscious desire to deal, or is it like the materials look this way and they let us here, you know?
I would say both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say both.
It's like subconscious shedding of like
I
COVID
mean,
anxiety.
how many times did we see the COVID image in our news media?
Right.
And then, but it also is, yeah, these things end up just, you know, you put a ball on the end of a thing that has this weird biological look to it,
right?
Oddly enough, because it's like hot pink.
I know.
I think it's the latter. I think it's such a, it feels to me so, you know, I take the stick and I stick it into the clay. I take the Nerf gun, the Nerf bullet or the tie, and I glue it to something. Actually, this is important to say, a guacamole bowl from the dollar store. That's so important. And so I think there's this this kind of human nature of to build, and that we were building them, and then once we're done, we're like, oh, now I see that they look like this, and I bet at another time they would look different, or we would interpret them as. Because I don't think I wasn't consciously making.
No, we didn't set out to be like, let's make some
viruses or.
I would say maybe the other aspect, that's true that us observing it from our vantage point is kind of giving it that, we're placing our perception on it as we do inherently with anything we look at. But there, I think, also was the experience of kind of watching you guys develop these that did kind of, to me, give me a sense of this is an evolving process. So each strain is a new generation. And so in that sense, there was a virality to watching them being produced that was really interesting. Like this one had a lot more nerf.
That one's
Nerf.
That one's transformed in reverse.
It has now been de-nerfified. It's only zip ties. I love this one because it's definitely corn, but it's like a prion of corn, like corn brain disease. I really love this one. I look for it. It just makes me laugh. Like something about the way you would enhance like the kernels. Oh, okay. Also, I really like that you're doing this because that actually leads me. And maybe I know we're getting close to Q&A, but y'all also do have a lot of video work, film work. Obviously, you work at Aurora, you have a background in film. How did you, or was it always a part of your work to, incorporate the moving image, in your films, or if you do anything beyond, shorts or films, like how are you incorporating moving images in live performance such as this into your work?
Well, we usually do it in tandem. I mean, the first work we did collaborating was all video, and so
you're good.
So it usually is like, so with devices, we made like 12 videos, and it was just part of the process. With this work, we haven't made any videos with it, not for any particular reason. I think we've just been really obsessed with this printing and manipulating.
Yeah.
It's just, I feel like it's just another way to make.
But it's again that the idea of this process. When Mary and I were living together first, Mary bought a computer to do video work. She was very interested and did beautiful videos before we started collaborating. And I said, can I use your computer? And she said yes, because I had to do Photoshop work, digital imaging. And one day I'm sitting there kind of moving the image back and forth on the screen, sort of animating it in real time. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is sort of what like Mary is doing. This is video. And then I became interested in it. You became interested a little more in photography. I think it was always this kind of like, again, going back to that, we're always very curious about the making. And so I'm not sure, that didn't answer your question, sorry, but it's how
I think it's interesting too, like, well actually I did have one follow-up question that's super important. What version of Photoshop were you using? What version?
I don't know.
You know that. I don't know, we're cloud-based now. So.
Yeah, well. Yeah. So I want to say like I started learning on like 6.0.
I think that sounds.
The one with the like the magnifying glass.
That was it. Yes.
Yeah. Photoshop 6.0, baby. I think it's really funny because I feel like for you it was like discovering like the potential in like collected still images of the moving image, and you're sort of like as opposed to like the still frame, the still image, and yet like the sensibilities like. There is a very cinematic quality. You set up these photos in a way that's narrative, it's humorous, it's very wry, and you have the ability to set the full stage with those kind of like composition sensibilities for a still image. And I can see really well how each of you is bringing that into your practice as an individual and how it kind of synthesizes in the alchemic way that y'all work together, which is really great. So it looks like we are at about that time, so we're going to check in with our audience to see if y'all have any questions for us tonight.
Questions,
We do have one question. So it says, you have inspired me to reach for experiencing a residency myself. And I would like to ask, do you have any advice for emerging artists who seek grant aid for supplies and other costs related to a residency and creating a body of work that could benefit from funding?
That's a big question.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a big
Well,
question.
I would say, just in terms of applying for things, I always recommend that people don't use too much art speak and just speak from their heart about their work, and kind of speak in a way that whoever's reading the application feels like you feel passionate about your work. Because I think that's the most important thing. And then I would say, I mean, we've done several residencies. What?
No, I'm laughing because that's exactly, we always talk about the artistic part of collaborating, but we never talk about the administrative, the applications. And if you weren't, oh my God, my essays to residencies are awful. Mary just looks at them and it's like, throw it away, start over. Oh, my God, they're all worse
It's okay,
than
Mary, you
awful.
don't have to be humble.
They're worse than awful.
But are always like too many words. They'll be like 200 words, and you're like, okay.
600 words, 1,000 words later.
I can't say I don't sympathize. I'm definitely that kind of person.
But I think you were exactly right. The very first thing is get somebody else to read it. Get somebody else to think about, would you let me into a residency if you read this? We're always the lone maker, the creative person in there. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, residencies are so great because they give you a new space, a new way to think, a new way to make. And so, I always encourage anybody to apply to residencies and do whatever you can to make it happen. If you have to, launch a Kickstarter to help support your travels to whatever location it's at, then, do whatever you can to make it happen. Because it really is invaluable time. And the network that you also make is so important. The friends and the other artists, the things you see, is super important to growing your practice. So I highly recommend residencies.
Let me tell the story of I hope this doesn't. I don't want this to sound very corny or like a self-help book, and Stefan has 10 ways to to do something, but
Number 5 is shocking.
But you really need to just find a residency you want to go to, make it happen, because what will happen is it starts to snowball. When we first when our children were born, we couldn't go to residencies because we were taking care of 2 children.
And there were, at that time, no parent residencies.
And we're like,
now there are. So
and
at
really
the time, we couldn't go.
And I think in part, not us, but there was this group, of artists and makers and craftspeople, and that said, no, there's a need to perhaps take our children, or as a family or a partner, and to participate. And the more we did it, just sticking, this is a little to the point, I think, saying we just got to do it, and if we find it, we'll just go to it no matter what. And then we told the residencies how important it was that our partner could come, our family members could come, that we received maybe a scholarship to make that happen. I think that they thought about it, and they talked to other residencies and other organizations, and it started to bloom. So
and then there's places like Sustainable Art Foundation that have been very encouraging of parents as artists too, and supportive of residencies offering that.
And I think this will apply to anything, who would have thought 2 years ago, I would have never thought there was going to be a craft and photography dual residency. And now it's happening, and it's going to keep happening. And watch, 5-10 years from now, there's going to be like 10 of them, and it'll just keep blossoming in other cities and other places.
I think it's really amazing to think about how really you kind of had to insert yourself forcibly into that space as parents who both had a desire to continue a collaborative practice. I think that's one of the things that I think across industries, but I think in art you can really see how there is a lot that's asked of you if the perception is there's a lot that's asked of you to withhold on or to not do in order to get to the place that you want to go, and to have you both have been completely committed to a collaborative, relationship, not only as artists but as parents, and to continue having that. I think it's an important example to say it's possible, and it's only because of what we're used to and the assumptions of a society that say it's hard. Because I think that you're right. If you just demand it and they really want to work with you, they're gonna find a way. And I think that's really powerful. And it's something I'm still learning about. How to kind of break through those barriers. And at a time like this, I think it's the best time because why shouldn't there be accommodations? Why shouldn't we be able to do these things and ask these things and even demand these things? So I think that's really, really.
And once you get your foot in the door, no matter what, your practice, the material, who you are, who you're with, whatever it is, it'll start to do things. I always remember the first or second residency we applied. There was this moment where we were officially a team, and we wanted to do something. We said we would like to apply as a team, and we got this really nice email back, but they said, well, but there's only one field for the last name. We don't know how. The software wouldn't let us apply.
Yeah. I like that.
Collaboration's a whole nother
two last names.
It was 2 last names, and it was and then all the things that we struggle with now today. It seems kind of superficial, but it's like no. And now it's very commonplace. It's just of course. A team, a collaborator, working with a musician or a playwright or a filmmaker or something. So back to that question, if you can make it happen and get your foot into that door once, it'll start to.
And there's websites where you can find the opportunities too. Like Glass Tireless stuff, but so does Creative Capital. It's a really great resource for residency listings. Kind of once you start finding them, then you get onto these listservs and get lots of information.
Cool. Well, we're super excited to hear that you're interested in pursuing a residency. So we definitely hope that we'll see an application from you, Mystery Question Asker, next year when the residency applications open again. Do we have any other questions from our audience? Cool beans. Well, I do think that it's just amazing to hear you guys kind of talk about your experiences and what you have brought to the Craft Center. It's really exciting to have this kind of collaborative energy brought forth in this collaborative residency. And, we're interested in what, craft is as an expansive term that's all about the material and the practice and these other ideas of what it is. And having you guys be here to kind of give us that example that's so exciting, so fun, so vibrant, and so quickly evolving has really been inspiring. So thank you guys really so much. Thank you for bearing with me on this most accursed of tech days. I'm so sorry. Thank you too to the audience for bearing with us. We really appreciate your patience. Hope you've had a great time with us. I will go ahead and give you one announcement because we're very excited and working super hard to get our gallery spaces turned over to open our summer exhibitions on June the 5th. We will be having a solo show in the Frank Gallery by a Texas-based artist, Joy Ude. The exhibition will be entitled Naija Vision, the work of Joy Ude. It will be fiber and mixed media work. And in the main gallery will be Suited Up, Contemporary Armor Making in Texas, an exhibition that is showcasing the amazing breadth of armor making here in the Lone Star State. Please stay tuned for upcoming events on our website. follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and you can always support us by texting the word craft to 41444. And that's it, y'all. Thanks again for joining us. We'll catch you the next time. Same craft time, same craft channel. Thanks, y'all.